we have so many different stories about how athletes. You and I talk about one of them in the NBA being Giannis, how he kind of subscribes to the I don't want friends, I don't want to be talking to everybody. Another one would be Lamar Jackson, kind of the whole I ain't trying to be friends with all these quarterbacks and all that. It happens even in golf, apparently. Rory McIlroy said, I ain't trying to be anybody's best mate when I'm competing. And that was, of course, as Bryson DeChambeau and him were set to play together and is set to play together again. And everybody was questioning, hey, at the Masters last month, you didn't really seem to be cordial. You didn't really seem to be talkative. And he talked about how he and his sports therapist locked in, like, yo, we need you to be locked in. We need you to be focused on you. And that's going to be the difference. And it ultimately ended up being successful for him. But the idea that, I have to be enemies. I have to not socialize. I feel like we overstate that. I feel like in maybe Roy's case it worked because golf is a singular sport, right? It's a sport where you're by yourself. You're literally on your own, can't depend on anybody else. I got to lock in and focus because it's my score versus their score. I can understand that. But it kind of makes me laugh, Rob, how we're making it as if you're not competitive and if you have friends. You're not competitive if you know other guys within the league or know other guys who you're cool with, the enemy, if you will. And I think we sometimes go back to the old days of the 80s and 90s. If you look at the NBA and, man, they were hard-nosed. They didn't take it from nobody. They weren't fraternizing. They weren't friends. I get the AAU theory that happens nowadays, but pump the brakes a little bit. And I say that because we are starting to lionize. We're starting to glorify them a little bit as if they weren't literally friends and in some cases best friends. I'll give you a couple examples, Rob. You can be friends and be competitive when you're in between the lines. I think that's what we're asking for, meaning I don't care about your personal life, who you know, who family go on vacation. I'll give you an example of Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson, who are literally best friends. Like, family spend the weekends together, go on trips together across the world, go on tour and concert tours with Michael Jackson. And they played against each other, obviously, as we know, regularly. But yet they were friends. Now, obviously, they fell out for a while and were able to rekindle that. But the idea that Michael Jordan didn't have any friends, he didn't talk to anybody, such and such isn't a competitor because he knows people. Man, stop it. Michael Jordan, as we saw in The Last Dance, is chopping it up with Larry Bird, chopping it up with Magic Johnson after games, meeting them in the tunnel, to the tune of even going to golf with Danny Ainge while they're competing in a playoff series. Yo, after the game, what you got up tomorrow? I'm going to golf. And to the tune of Danny Ainge beating him on the golf course, taking his money, and Michael Jordan put 63 on their head the next game in a loss. But that epic game where he put 63 on them, man, Larry Bird says that's God in a Bulls jersey. So I don't like the idea that it's either or, Rob. Like, you can't be cool with guys, have relationships with a guy, and now you're not competitive. And I completely get on the court. I need to see competitive fight. I need to see that you both are there and you want to smoke. But the idea that these people aren't friends, like Barkley and Jordan weren't best friends for years. Like Jordan wasn't friends with Patrick Ewing, as you know, being in New York. And like he wasn't tight with Charles Oakley. And so on and so forth. I just think
Charles Oakley played together, though.
Right, I know, back in early days of Chicago. But my point is they act as if you can't be cool with people. You can't have a relationship with people and their families. And all of a sudden you're not competitive or you're not about that life if you do. Now, I agree. This new school has gone too far with the fraternizing in our face, trading jerseys, and hanging out and all of that. And because I believe this starts with the AAU, but just we go a little too far with back in the day. Look how hard he was and gritty, and he didn't have any friends. He didn't talk to anybody. Man, we come to find out Kobe Bryant had a lot of people he was really tight with, cared about, mentored, behind the scenes, if you will. So that's my thing on this is sometimes I think we go too far with the either or. You're not competitive if you have relationships with people. Yeah, I don't believe that has to be the case.
I disagree. I think it's way out of control right now. And you touched on it. The AAU, there used to be a thing, and this is where we talk about the competitive fire and balance. You used to want to be the best basketball player in the city of Detroit. Now the AAU strings together the 3 or 4 best players on one team. You beat up nobody, right? And there's not that competitive balance of wanting or competitiveness of wanting to be the best. I want to be the guy. I don't want to be on somebody else's team. I don't want to gang up with somebody else. I want to be my own. That's why I respect Giannis a lot. not to want to be a part of that, and to win a championship on his own without having to go and join Miami because they knocked him out of the playoffs or whatever it was. He decided to do his own thing. And here's the problem that I think you're missing, is that people can manipulate you when you fall into that. And you talked about it with all the jersey swapping and all this other stuff. Draymond Green has been neutered by LeBron James. Has been neutered. He went from kicking LeBron in the junk and all that to now he's a yes man for LeBron. He's the LeBron is this, LeBron is that. And he won't touch LeBron when they're not, it is not the same. And he treats LeBron differently when he plays compared to before. Will you agree with that or not?
Yeah.
Give me that.
No. What they know, and I don't think anybody can deny that. I completely.
And that's what I'm
that.
talking about with you got to be careful not to fall for that okey doke, which is to soften you up. You're cool. I'm gonna let you in on this. You're gonna come to these parties. You know what I'm saying? And
I think that was a great. I totally agree with you on this. I think what happened here, Rob, is once you start idolizing like the business end of it, and that's when it gets weird. But I don't, we're cool guys, we're friends. I know him. That's cool. But I think
you gotta listen to Draymond.
Too much. Yeah, these guys they're too locked into the other stuff. Like, oh, look how you're being a mogul. I want to be like you because you're a mogul and you're running this ship and running this business.
But that affects your basketball, and that's the problem is what I'm saying. His aggressiveness and the way he treats LeBron on the court compared to before is totally different.
You saying he laying him down now instead of just slamming him? Here you go, King. I'm going to lay you down real quick.
Yeah, I know. I'm not touching you.
Let me go get a pillow real quick.
He got on, he don't even have, not kid gloves. He has kid mittens. He don't even have gloves.
He's got those gloves you use in your charity boxing match.
You know what I mean? Those big gloves that I had to knock Terry Foster out.
But you know what? But I'm going to go with what I mean by this. I think a great example of it, and we keep singing his praises in a multitude of ways, Anthony Edwards. He's the perfect balance. I'm cool with Steph and LeBron and these guys. I'm on the USA team. I love them. I know their family. But you about to get this smoke in between these white lines, in between the 94 feet court. I want to dust you off. KD, my favorite player of all team, come get this smoke. Steph, get this smoke. LeBron, get this smoke. Jokic, get the smoke last year. And I think he's the perfect balance of what I mean of you can be cool with people but absolutely want to annihilate them. And I do think there was an era where guys got lost with that, where guys kind of they lost the competitive edge and they just were like, I'm just happy to be here. I'm making good money, and this is pretty dope. I'm in the NBA. And I'm excited because you get guys who seemingly got a little bit of that old school in them like that. Jaylen Brown is a guy like that. Got a lot of respect for people, but I want to beat you and bust your head, and I don't necessarily be friendly on this court. Jalen Brunson has a little bit of that. Again, Anthony Edwards really being the king of that. So I'm optimistic that some of these young guys are getting back to we can be cool. We can be playing Madden online and all this stuff and whatever else they play online, Halo, I don't know, Call of Duty. But when it comes to being competitive, when it comes to this playoff series, I'm trying to destroy you. I'm trying to take your head off. And then I'll call you and check on your mama during the summer. And I think we're getting back to a good balance.
I don't think that. I think that that's a delicate. I can remember Magic and Bird, who kissed during the playoffs, okay, on the cheek before the games. They got into it. There were elbows and blood and bruises, okay. So when they were on the court, they did go at it and compete. And that's why people didn't totally go oh, well, Isaiah's soft on Magic or Magic's soft on.
He split Isaiah eye open.
No, I know, and that's what I'm trying to say. But I think today there's more idol worshiping and more where people are just way too. There's a time and a place for all that and to admire somebody. But you don't need to be up under them or think that they walk on water. And I think that's where, and it's like we talk about it in the media today. I say it all the time. There's a lot of media members now who are fanboys. I'm saying it. I've been in this business for 40 years. And they're rooting for people, and they want people to win, and they're mad when the Lakers get knocked out. They think like they were on the team or something. And there's a lot of players as well who you can't idolize people who you're trying to defeat. And that's why I think LeBron got to Draymond. To me, that's the best example of changing somebody by bringing him into your inner circle, right? Showing him some things that he admires of what you're doing, and then you're all on board. Like the idea that he would even talk about him being the GOAT and the greatest player while they're still competitors is mind-boggling to me. I'm trying to beat him and win as many championships as I can. When I'm retired and you want to ask me all that, that's fine. But he's going around campaigning for LeBron, like campaigning.
No,
that's a guy. That's a guy.
No, Draymond is the two extremes. He's putting Rudy Gobert in a chokehold, and he is Team LeBron with pom poms. It is. Those are the two, because he is laying everybody else out, elbow, knocking them out, punching them, choking them out, and that's not the case with Bron. But yeah, just for me to surmise that, I think what Roy McIlroy's doing is what he needed to do to lock in and focus, especially considering all the failures he had getting so close but no cigar there at the Masters. And if that's what he needed to do again in a singular sport, I'm not mad at that. But the idea, I just think that sometimes we oversell like they hated each other back in the day. Like, no, you had a couple people who didn't like each other, but those guys they were all ultra competitive on the court and absolutely went for it, blood for blood, blow for blow. And I loved it. You loved it. We all loved it.
I'll give you one example I want to share. Yeah. I don't want to forget this. In baseball, like the players in the NBA, they go into each other's locker room and hug up each other and all that stuff. Dude, when I covered baseball in the day, a visiting player could never come into their clubhouse. Like I don't care who you were, who he was coming to see. You know what I mean? He could be coming to see Aaron Judge. You're going to take that outside. There's no way you're coming into – like, seriously. They would fight their teammate for them to try to bring somebody, another team, a player from another team into their clubhouse. It was supposed to be, this is our place. I don't care what relationship you have. And I'm not saying that you're trying to hurt people and all that, but you got to keep a distance if you're trying to beat somebody. If you get too close, you let your guard down. And that's what's happened to Draymond. So